I'm Stella Coakley, actually used professionally Stella Coakley, retaining my maiden name as carry forth. I'm an Associate Dean in the College of Agricultural Sciences. I am a plant pathologist by training. My previous position was as department head in botany and plant pathology, which I did for a bit over 15 years, and I have been in the Dean's office since 2004. I grew up in a small farming community in the San Joaquin Valley of California, the youngest in a family of four, actually three daughters that grew up together. I did my university at the town, Ceres, California. It's near Modesto. Went to Modesto Junior College for 2 years and transferred to the University of California at Davis. I received a bachelor's in plant science in 1969, a master's in plant pathology in 1970, and my PhD in plant pathology in 1973, all from UC Davis. Well, probably most influenced by my family, and specifically my father, who was a farmer, a very creative, innovative farmer. But my mother, who is the youngest of 7, all of her siblings had been to college, herself included. She graduated from UC Berkeley in the 30s, so she was a bit of a pioneer herself. And my father's philosophy was to get all the education I could. He and his family blew out of the Dust Bowl in the Dust Bowl years out of Oklahoma to California, so their context was quite different than yours and mine is. And I farmed side by side with my father for many years, and out of that grew my interest in doing something useful for growers, and specifically plant pathology. Plant diseases are an ongoing challenge for agriculture. So I'd have to say that would probably have been the biggest influence on where I ultimately ended up, was because of those experiences. I think it is primarily to help others and make things work better. So in the context of my job now, which is administrative, is to make it possible for others to do their research, teaching, extension more efficiently. And my primary contact point are the department unit leaders, both on campus and off campus, that are managing groups of people of various sizes. So we pretty much work through their personnel issues or their funding issues or whatever comes their way. So pretty much making things work better for others. Excellence in my work. In my play, I suppose you could say a satisfaction of accomplishing something, whatever it is. Primarily my reading is novels, and if there's history or science or other things woven in, so much the better. Usually if I find an author that I like, I will read everything they have written. Sometimes it's in reverse order of how they wrote it, and sometimes discover that some authors write better first novels and some write better last novels. So I read for entertainment and relaxation. I still work in a very somewhat minimalist way on issues of global climate change and plant pathogens. Impact on plant pathogens specifically, or pests generally, so I still occasionally lecture in those areas or serve in some kind of advisory or capacity. So that is would be my research area of interest. As far as my position requires that I sort of come up to speed and stay up to speed variously on different topics as relates to the units that I'm responsible for. Some of them include Fisheries and Wildlife, the Marine Mammal Institute, the Coastal Oregon Marine Experiment Station, are all areas that I have learned a lot about, even though they aren't my research expertise. Certainly there's a need for me to know enough about the programs I manage to be able to assist them in their enterprises. So that has to be my focus now relative to where it was my own research when I was still in the department. I think all areas of the agricultural sciences, I'm responsible for roughly half that are in the college at present, so I will be always learning new things about our programs as well as we develop new programs. So sort of trying to stay on the cutting edge of the science in associated fields. As far as myself, I think part of the reason I never experienced discrimination is because I never entertained the thought that it was present. And someone said, well, isn't that tantamount to saying that it doesn't exist? And I said, well, no, because there are always opportunities where one can choose to decide why something happened. And you could easily take, I mean, I've had many opportunities to take gender as a reason for something, but I simply have never allowed myself to, and I think I made the right choices. For one thing, it's much easier to get along with your colleagues, and for another, you don't go looking around bushes for the next discrimination. And there is no doubt in my mind that everyone has their own set of experiences, and that the interpretation of those experiences can only be made by the individual themselves. But in my observations of unsuccessful women in science, the model there of sort of attributing lack of success to everyone but yourself is not necessarily a very healthy situation. No, but I had the advantage of having a mother who had gone through higher education at a time that's fairly uncommon. I had to work harder in math and science than, for example, my father, who could do amazing, even though he had little formal education, he could do amazing mathematical kinds of calculations in his head. So he had a skill that genetics dictates to a large degree what we can do with what we have. I actually would attribute the decline in interest and self-esteem in math and sciences to the teachers who teach the students. And many of our elementary school teachers, and I've observed this firsthand with students who I studied with when I was at the university who were going into these fields, too many of them hated math and science. And in an elementary classroom, you can transmit your hate through action or lack of confidence yourself. The advice I give to anyone pursuing a career in science or actually any other field would be simply that one needs to follow their heart about what they're going to do and find something. You really need to be passionate about your work. No, the concept of role model is an odd one to me, even though I do know that I'm considered a role model for many people because I've been told that by them.